What is up, my friends? Welcome back to another video. Today we are taking a look at some strings again, and we're actually going to be doing some layering, okay? Because I've gotten the question quite a bit, like what libraries do you usually like to layer for your strings? Should I be just sticking with one library, or should I be kind of combining different ones together to kind of get the texture I want? And the beautiful thing is that there is no right or wrong. It really comes down to the overall sound that you're looking for, and every situation is going to be different. So again, there's no right or wrong here. I'm just going to show you some of the combinations that I like to use usually when I'm kind of writing a cue and I want maybe like a slightly thicker sound or a slightly more balanced sound, right? Compared to just having one library do all the work. Again, it's not something that you have to do, but if you want to do it, it can create a more unique texture that maybe differentiates your piece slightly from another. You know, that could be a thing too. But before we get into that, I want to give you my sample library buyer's guide in case you don't have it yet. It's a totally free guide combining all of my favorite libraries into one PDF guide, kind of categorized by price in different sections. And most of my students have basically read through this and really enjoyed it. And they've told me that it's given them ideas for which libraries to get next. But at the same time, I only like to recommend stuff that I think will actually help you. I don't usually recommend stuff that I don't really use or that I don't think will help you on your music. So if you're curious about the stuff that I like to use or I would recommend, this is the guide for you. And again, it's totally free. So if you click the first link in the box below, you'll have access to that right away. In any case, let's get into it. So quick disclaimer here. Actually, all these combinations I'm going to show you all use Cinematic Studio strings. I've talked about this before, but CSS really is my go-to library. I think everyone pretty much has their go-to string library, right? Some people dislike CSS, some people love it. For me, I just really enjoy the ease of use and the playability. The only downside sometimes is just that the fact that you can't pull in single articulations, so you have only like 7 patches, so you literally have to drag in all the articulations of a single section. But again, the good thing is that it's all organized, it's very easy to use, and the GUI makes it really easy to switch between the different articulations on the fly. In any case, the first combination is CSS with CSSS. Cinematic Studio solo strings. So let's hear what that sounds like. Just double checking here, all these channels are number 2 and these are channel number 1. So I'm going to hear the output on both of them at the same time. And this brings up another topic of how to actually do this, like practically in your DAW. You could do it like how I'm doing here. So you literally just perform it in at the same time. And then when the MIDI is triggered, you know, both the outputs on the patches will come out at the same time. Or you could operate 2 separate tracks. Like you could say CSS on one track and then let's say CSSS on the second track. And then you can play the MIDI or play the performance in one track, copy that MIDI down onto the second track, and then access it both that way as well. No right or wrong here again, but just a personal preference. Anyway, let's have a listen to what these 2 libraries combined sound like. Okay, so I apologize for the little clicks there, distortion there, but essentially you hear that with the solo violin activated with the main ensemble, it really adds a slight bit of detail to it. It doesn't change the sound a whole lot, but I would say like when you hear CSS by itself, it sounds creamy. When you add in CSSS, it sounds slightly more detailed. There's a little bit more that you can hear from the sound, right? A little bit more detail there. And that's what the solo violin also contributes to the overall ensemble. Let's move on to the next one. So I'll make that channel 2. And let's hear how Vista, the 3 violins FF overlay, sounds with CSS combined together. So here we go. Okay, so having Vista layered with CSS definitely brightens up the overall sound signature. And funny enough, Vista also has kind of a creamy tone to it as well. So overall, it really just thickens everything up and makes it sound so huge and passionate, which I really like. And the final combination I like to use, put that on number 2, is CSS with Berlin strings, right? So make that channel 1, and let's check. There we go. Okay, and Berlin strings layered with CSS kind of makes the faster notes have a bit of more of a blurred transitions between the notes. And so that's why I think Berlin strings, if you're going to use it for its own soaring passages, it does stand pretty well on its own, because the blurred kind of legato in the faster runs, or the agile legato, it kind of lends to the nature of the notes kind of blurring together more realistically, right? But with CSS, it can make the overall transitions a little bit too blurry for my taste. And so usually I would use it for slower passionate lines rather than having like super fast runs, you know? Like all of these different combinations I would really use for more emotional, slower passages rather than having really fast playing here. So yeah, let me know which is your favorite combination, and I'm sure you have your own as well. You know, if you've been doing string mockups for any length of time, you probably have your own combinations that you like to use. But again, for me, CSS is kind of like the base library, and then usually I'll layer it with something else to add some extra juice and thickness to it. Instead of having to do lots of EQ to Cinematic Studio strings, like bringing up the highs and bringing down the lows and the sub frequencies, sometimes the easiest thing is literally just to layer in a brighter library so it balances out the sound overall. So when I balance out that signal, bounce out that signal to audio, then the overall signal is more balanced rather than having the lows too heavy and then the there's no highs, right? It's less on the high frequencies. So personal preference here, but yeah, I think out of all of them, I like CSS and Vista the most combination wise. And I find myself been doing that more recently on my cues. So yeah, you might have a combination you like. Let me know in a comment below which ones kind of sounded the best to you for your taste. I'd love to know, and we can kind of discuss that there. And again, if you don't have my sample library buyer's guide, I definitely would recommend it to you. It's totally free, and again, it contains all the libraries that I like to use on a regular basis, all condensed into one PDF guide. So on your next purchase, if you're looking for something, maybe that can help you out. Again, a lot of my students have been using it, and it's really been giving them some ideas on what to grab for their next purchase. Again, usually update it once or twice a year, so you can trust that these are updated opinions that I'm sharing with you. In any case, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I'll catch you in tomorrow's video. Take care. Bye-bye.